Hello, everybody, and welcome back for episode 11 here on SMP. Behind me isn't anything new. This was all just done in a previous episode sometime. What I want to show you guys, though, is this cow pit right here. All these cows have been here since, like, the beginning of the server. They've been here forever, so I finally decided what I want to do with these guys over in the rural area. Well, we're back here in the area that we've been working on for the last couple of episodes, and I think this place will make a pretty good cow pen. There needs to be a bit more work done. I think more trees, more grass, more flowers, and of course to finish off the fence so that the cows can't get out over here. But I think it'll be a pretty good place for our cows to stay. We also need to put a little bit of a shelter for them to stay in whenever it's raining or something, but I think we got the beginnings of something, so let's go ahead and get started. We're pretty much done with the trees in this area, so we're going to move on to the details, but before we do, I wanted to talk about the plans for this section of grass right here. I want to, of course, add more sycamore trees so that there'll be a little bit of a patch or a grove, but I also want to blend in the pine trees a little bit so that we eventually kind of fade back into this area over here where it's just pine trees. I think that should be easy enough to do. I actually kind of started with the sycamore trees over here a little bit. We have a couple more, which is all nice, but like I said, the last thing to do is the detailing, and before we get started on that, I do think I have enough flowers to get started, but I'm not sure if I have enough to really finish this project out, so I feel like we should maybe make a flower farm. As far as farms go in Minecraft, flower farms are pretty simple. They only need really two things that are hard to come by: bone meal, which we have plenty of from this moss farm, and they need to be in the right biome to produce the right kind of flowers. And luckily, the kind of flowers I want will spawn right here in this area, so we can go ahead and build it right here in the industrial area. The only problem being how to move the bone meal from this farm to the flower farm and future farms that we're going to build, such as a tree farm. That's something that I have yet to exactly work out, but we'll do some redstone on the fly and build that flower farm, and I'm sure it'll all work out. Let's get started. Can we take a moment and talk about Enderman griefing? Why is it still a thing in vanilla Minecraft that you can't stop it somehow? Like, I know you can get a data pack or whatever and prevent them from griefing, but or like turn off the game rule for mob griefing, but neither of those are really an option for the server right now because mob griefing is useful for sheep farms over there and stuff. But like, I need a way for specifically Enderman griefing to be prevented. Like, every other way is already being prevented somehow, but Enderman keep tearing up my grass ceiling up here. It's really annoying. Anyway, flower farm is finished. You can see it's all working back there. The design is by Raceworks, so go check him out if you want to. And it is Raceworks this time. It's not the wrong guy. I made a mistake last episode. But all the poppies are being stored in here, which we haven't been collecting them for very long. All the other flowers have had a bit more time to fill up, so we have an excessive quantity of dandelions and a pretty reasonable amount of everything else. It's kind of weird that that's the rates, but it is what it is. The seeds end up composted down there, and over here we have the main bone meal storage for the moss farm now, which is a lot more compact than this previous design. But it also automatically distributes bone meal over to the flower farm as it needs it, and then we'll store it whenever it doesn't. But since we have all the flowers we need, let's go ahead and get back to it. Actually, before we start placing flowers and grass, I want to talk a little bit about placing flowers and grass. I do it in a pretty deliberate way. Unlike some people that run around with bone meal, I place it all by hand, which takes a lot more time, but I'm able to tell kind of interesting stories. For instance, these flowers aren't native to this area. They're brought in by the beekeeper for the bees to pollinate and produce honey from. The rest, though, are native. They're wildflowers or whatever, and there's a few different types. For instance, all these yellow ones, like you'll see through this whole area, actually everywhere throughout the rural area, they prefer sunnier environments, so you'll see them not really under trees too much, but kind of in between the shadows. And then there's the white flowers, which do prefer shadier environments, so you'll see them under trees. There's also these rose bushes and these pink bushes, which all exist kind of near these bees. They're not really in any other environment, just around here. And then there's also the grass, which I try to place in places that would be pretty hard to mow, which is a pretty simple way of putting it. So you'll see a lot of grass, especially tall grass, next to trees, or in places that I think just wouldn't get maintained very well. And the rest of the grass is in places to kind of break up the texture of the grass a little bit, like this patch right here, or these kind of sporadically placed ones. Then there's the moss carpets, which all pretty much have candles under them. It's just for lighting, actually. It's just to hide stuff. And you'll notice that I only put 2 candles under here, and that's because I want it to still be dark, but not too dark that I have to place candles on every block pretty much. So only on a few blocks you'll see candles here and there, and it's just for lighting. It's no mystery. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about flowers for now. So let's actually get started. well, all the grass and flowers are done, so let's go over some of the details. There's a few changes that I did compared to over by the bee place to tell a little bit of a different story about this area compared to the bee area. The bee area has bees in it, hence the name bee area, and the bees would help the flowers pollinate and spread, so there's just a lot less over here compared to the bee area. There's also a lot less grass. I feel like it's all kind of shorter, a little bit more sparse because of the cows. The cows would kind of keep this all a little bit more trimmed up compared to the bee area, which doesn't have anything cutting the grass. Over here though, there's one last thing I want to do before we bring over the cows, and that's to build up a little shelter for them, kind of like a barn, but a lot smaller because a whole barn wouldn't fit in this area. So just a little kind of shelter here. For this shelter, I am going to kind of just freehand it, so I got a bunch of different resources that might come in handy, but I don't have any creative plans or anything like that, so it's all just going to be me winging it, so it might look terrible, and I might scrap the whole idea. We'll see, but assuming all goes well, you'll see it in the next clip. Alright, here is the little shelter shack hut thing for the cows. There's not much to talk about, it's pretty simple, mostly just meant to be kind of a roof in case it rains or there's like a thunderstorm or something, so the cows can all go in there and be a bit more comfortable. There's not too much room in here, but they're currently being kept in a 5x5 hole in the ground, so I don't think they're gonna complain too much. Let's bring them over. Alright, well the plan is pretty simple. I lead them all and then dual wield the wheat. And hopefully they all end up where they're supposed to go. Let's try this out. Alright, we've gotten to the farm. Now I think I don't have a good way to get them in. Maybe scaffolding will work. Let's go ahead and disconnect these leads. We lost a few cows along the way, so I'll go back and grab those real quick, but I think it's already working out pretty well. As you can see, all the cows have been moved over, and other than this occasionally happening, they all seem to be moving around and being cows, you know? Some have already moved in and out of that little shelter, and as far as I can tell, they can't escape the fence, so they are all pretty much contained. The water isn't going to let them leave either because they don't naturally pathfind into water here on Java Edition, and they also won't despawn here on Java Edition. At least I think on Bedrock the rules might be a little different, so they might be able to there, but here they can't. So all is working pretty well, it seems. As we come to the end of this episode, I wanted to kind of talk about what we might get up to in the next episode. A bit of an exclusive preview, if you will. A little bit of a spoiler, maybe. I'm not really sure, but what I can tell you is that we're going to be returning to the town project over there in the distance. We haven't worked on it in, I don't know, probably over a month. We've just been over here in the rural area building trees for the most part, but we're finally going to return, and I have some interesting plans. You won't want to miss it, but unfortunately, this is all I have time for today. So thank you all for watching, and God bless.